Welcome to Norse Code, the #1 podcast for your Minnesota Vikings. I'm your host and producer. My name is James Pagoshnik. Thank you guys so much for listening. And at the other end of the tin cannon string, we have our analyst and co-host. You know him from numerous blogs and podcasts around the internet. Now featured on Pro Football Network, he is useful human Arif Hassan. Arif, how was your Browns-Steelers enjoyment tonight? Was it everything you wanted to be and more? Was Trubisky making too many passes to the left? How was it?
It was great. So first, I'd like to talk to somebody from 5 years ago and explain to them that the Browns and the Bills are good and the Lions might be as well. I just want them to be prepared for that when the time comes. Second thing, that was nice. I am now being pigeonholed into being a Jacoby Brissett guy, which is weird. I don't particularly think he's a good quarterback, but I think he's had some good performances. Then a bunch of Browns fans got mad at me when I said if he continues being good, it would be kind of funny if there was a quarterback controversy with confirmed POS Deshaun Watson. Now I'm a Jacoby Brissett guy, and I'm glad that he played well. And Mitch Trubisky finally is living up to who he is as a person. You know how like Tim Tebow would like rework his throwing motion before every season? He'd like wear a towel under his armpit and tighten up his throwing motion. And then in the preseason, he'd have this new throwing motion that would be great and fantastic and compact and quick. And then, a couple of games in, he would be regressing into throwing like he normally does. I think Trubisky is the same way with throwing left. First couple of games, preseason, he's throwing everywhere. Right? He can throw to the left, he can throw to the right, he can throw kind of over the middle, not that much. And it was like, it looked like death for my take. But Takesville's back, baby.
Arif, don't get me wrong. I do appreciate your newer material. Sometimes it's good to get some fresh stuff out there, but I do enjoy the hits.
Yeah, the classics are the classics for a reason.
Absolutely. This is your all-star by Smash Mouth. I just
soon I'm going to be arguing with Padres fans.
Exactly. That's what's coming, and I look forward to covering that. Welcome to this episode of Norse Code. Hope you guys are all doing well. We have a game to preview. We are going to be previewing the Lions game for this Sunday with Jeremy Reisman. He's been on the show a couple of times. Great guy. So we'll be doing that. And we have a mailbag as well. But before we start, again, thank you guys so much for listening to Norse Code. If you enjoy the show and would like to donate to the show, you can do so in a couple of different ways. You can go over to paypal.me/Norse Code and just do it there. That's a one-time donation, just like Matthew Cato did. Matthew, thank you so much. It is greatly appreciated. You can also go to patreon.com/Norse Code, which is a subscriber-based. You can do any amount you'd like per month. Typically, people do $3.50 a month to help keep the Loch Ness Monster at bay, get access to the Discord, get access to some of the bonus episodes we've got up there. We've got over 50 that are up over on patreon.com/Norse Code, and much more. So check that out. It's really fun. You can also do a year subscription as well if you would enjoy that. So check that out. You can also go to norsecode.threadless.com and get yourself a t-shirt, get yourself a cup, get yourself an Arif throw pillow. There's options. Also, a quick note: we are about a week out from the live episodes that we're going to be doing over in London. So the live episode officially is planned for October 2nd after the Saints game. Antwerp Arms is the name of the pub. It's a couple of blocks away from the stadium, so check that out. Again, October 2nd after the Saints game at Antwerp Arms. Check it out. Arif's going to be there. I'm going to be there. We're going to have some fun. We're going to record. We'll take some questions from the audience. We'll have some drinks afterwards. It should be entertaining as hell. So these the live shows are like one of the best parts about doing the show. I know Arif enjoys meeting you guys. I enjoy meeting you guys, and we always have a fun story to tell afterwards. So, and this time I've been assured we will not again have to deal with a passive aggressive DJ halfway through the night. So there will not be.
We made it clear to the establishment that we would not want any part of that.
Yes. Unlike the New York situation, this appears to be taken care of. So, again, Antwerp Arms looks like it's going to be awesome. We're also going to be meeting up with some fans throughout the weekend. So, look out for us. This is going to be a hell of a lot of fun. London looks very promising. We're all very excited. And as a side note, if you decided to not listen to the review of last game, if you decided not to listen to the Eagles review, I have to implore you.
Check first, I understand, but second.
Yeah. Listen, I get it, but listen to the first 20 minutes. Because there's two of the best moments of the entire year in that episode, one of which might be the best moment in show history. It is fantastic. Check it out. We've had a ton of positive feedback on that episode. Listen, I understand that terrible games lead to people not wanting to listen to the review. I'm acutely aware of it. I've looked at the stats over the years.
We have the data. Yeah.
I get it. However, trust me when I tell you that after the worst Vikings losses, I try to give you something worth listening to. I try to do something to make it so that there's a reason for you to tune in. And I really tried. And I think we succeeded in giving something memorable in last episode. So please check that out. Just if nothing else, for the first 20 minutes of episode 435. It's totally worth it. And Arif has one of the best lines possibly of his entire podcasting career. It's worth it.
Yeah, it's all downhill from here, so you might as well listen to it.
Yeah, well, it's we all knew this was coming. You're moving publications. It was time. And with that optimism, we're going to go to the preview that Arif taped earlier today with Jeremy Reisman from Pride of Detroit.
All right, I'm here with Jeremy Reisman from Pride of Detroit, and what do you call it? The podcast, because it's POD, or is it the POD cast?
POD cast. We pretend that makes it easier to find via search, but it's still very hard.
If I type in Lions podcast, would I find it?
Hopefully. I hope so. But I can't guarantee that the answer is yes.
Okay. That's amazing. Well, we'll link it in the show notes either way. So people will at least be able to find it there. I don't know what people would be listening to this that want to listen to a Lions podcast, because it's primarily Vikings fans. But if you do want to listen to a Lions podcast, I had a lot of fun on this one. I have not surveyed all the Lions podcasts, so I don't know if his is the best one, but I've got a reasonable amount of confidence that it's a very good one.
That, you know what? I'll take that semi-endorsement.
Fantastic. Everyone listen. All right, we're here to talk about the surprisingly interesting Lions. I don't know, are they good? They feel like a good team.
That's a great question. And I feel like this is a little bit of retaliation because I asked you if Kirk Cousins was good at the top of my podcast. So now you're kind of throwing it back at me.
I would never do that.
It feels like they're definitely, like you said, a fun team. And I can't quite call them good yet because they're so young and they're going to be so mistake prone as the season goes on. Mm-hmm. I feel like they're a very well coached team, and I feel like we've seen a lot of their young players already make some big steps. So it's hard to say anything but this is a team headed in the right direction. And I know that's kind of a cop out to the question you actually asked, but I'm going to stick with that.
All right. Team culture. Let's go. Okay. So my question is still kind of forest for tree stuff, but this feels like a fundamentally unsustainable offense, right? Because it's built, like, obviously any team that's like leading the league in points offensive points. It's a very important distinction. I kept on getting that thrown at me. The Lions are leading the league in offensive points scored. And I was like, well, the only reason you would say that. And then I checked, and yes, there's another team with more points.
Right.
But any team leading the league in points, doing so because of the running game, and particularly because of an explosive running game, seems fundamentally unsustainable. And I was like, is the run blocking really good? And I checked PFF, and the run blocking grades are like slightly above average. And I check ESPN's run block win rate, and the Lions rank 20th in run block win rate.
Right.
And I'm like, what is going on here? So, and also, but the run blocking should get better because then people will get healthy and get inserted back into the lineup over time. So I don't know what's going on.
I guess I don't really either, because I mean, while I respect those metrics, they don't really pass the eye test to me, because I feel like the run blocking is very good. And I think part of it is, we talked a little bit on my podcast, like, I think the fact that the Lions are able to do so many different things in the run game, in terms of looks, in terms of scheme, in terms of, even who's in the backfield and things like that. I feel like that, all that kind of maybe that's it. Maybe it's coaching over performance, that the Lions are just simply out coaching the other team in terms of what they're throwing at them. but again, like I do think that the run blocking is a lot better than it looks, and that's kind of, again, more of a credit maybe to the coaching staff, because they're without their starting left guard. Last week they were without their starting center. They've been without their starting right guard for the entirety of the season so far. So, but I think you're right, because like a lot of people are pointing to that, the Lions running backs are leading the league in yards before contact with like 3.8 or 3.9 or whatever it is.
They're leading the league in yards before contact, and then DeAndre Swift also leads the league in yards after contact.
Right. But when you have 3 rushes of 50 plus yards and no one is touching you before those, well, okay, that's going to skew the numbers a little bit too, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't really know where this offense is going to land when, we're in week 15. I think it's also very interesting that this team is third, I think, in points per drive and 5th in highest percentage of 3 and outs. That doesn't seem like those two should mix together very well.
Yeah.
And it certainly seems like one of those is going to regress hard. And Lions fans are certainly hoping it's the 3 and out number, but I'm not entirely sure it is.
That's really interesting. So if I sort individual running backs by yards before contact per attempt, and I'm looking for specifically Jamal Williams, who I respect, but don't think is going to be a star.
Sure. I have to imagine his yards before contact is going to be kind of good. His yards after contact are going to be very bad.
Oh, they're abysmal. Yeah. But the conversation is
right
before contact.
Right.
No, he's like second to last among those with like at least 10 carries in yards after contact. So yards before contact, 1.57. That's about a league average, which speaks to your bit about the 350 plus yard runs being a big driver of the yards before contact statistic, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so that's part of it, right? But also the Lions have a unique offense. Do you think that kind of unique insofar as the modern NFL, right? Like it was not uncommon necessarily to see this offense even, 7-8 years ago, when teams were more willing to play, trap style runs and wham blocks and gap runs in general with a bunch of different ways to approach it. But like, is this an advantage that will wither away over time as the season goes on? This sort of schematic kind of surprise that they've kind of put on everybody else?
It's certainly possible. I mean, I can't tell the future here, Reef, but yeah, I think
I'm demanding that you do.
Well, you know what? I'll try. Because listen, I don't think the Lions are necessarily static in what they're going to do. Like I know Dan Campbell's a big established run guy, but this is a team that also drafted, traded up to get Jameson Williams. I think they understand the importance of a passing game, and I think they plan to incorporate him once he's healthy in a month or two. So they've invested heavily in the wide receiver position in general too. You had DJ Chark this offseason. You get Josh Reynolds in the middle of last year, and it helps Jared Goff to throw the ball downfield a little bit. And I think that's something that's part of the offense that really just hasn't been unwrapped yet. And it's not that they haven't tried. Goff has just kind of missed on DJ Chark on a couple of deep shots. But yeah, I think fundamentally it's still kind of a run first. And I think they want to be kind of a lot of stuff that's coming to Minnesota, right? They have a bunch of Rams influence on their offense as well, because that's what Jared Goff is comfortable with. Right. And that's, Ben Johnson, their new offensive coordinator, kind of went out this offseason and said, hey, Jared, what do you like? And they kind of dug into the Rams playbook and incorporated a bunch of that stuff too. So I think we've seen an emphasis on the run game, and we'll still kind of see that be a highlight of the offense, but I don't think they're going to be as static as maybe they look so far.
All right, so tell me about DeAndre Swift. Why does he only have 20 carries?
Well, I think the Lions are a little bit stubborn in wanting to not run him into the ground. He's battled. He's right. I know that frustrates fantasy football fans, which are by far my favorite type of fans. I love them so much.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. But I mean, he's a guy that's dealt with a lot of injuries, and lo and behold, he suffers an ankle injury in week 1 that causes him to have 7 carries, I think, last week. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just managing him. They know how explosive of a weapon he is. They want that around for as many weeks as possible. And so if he gets 7-8 touches and turns them into 80 yards and a touchdown like he did last week, I think they're going to be okay with that. And I think they have enough confidence in everyone else on that offense. I mean, they have a decent amount of weapons kind of at every level where they feel like if they need to limit what he can do out there, they still have enough weapons to kind of overcompensate.
All right. So you've got a number of running backs. You've got Jamal Williams, somebody named Craig Reynolds, known communist Justin Jackson. This, by the way, that's the truth. That's like not a joke. Like he is a known communist.
Well, now I have a new thing to talk about him and we'll talk about with him in the locker room. Thank you.
Yeah, if he's willing to talk about it, I'll confirm after the show that he's the person I'm thinking about.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that okay, no, he is the person I'm thinking about. But I kind of want to, like, how does the rest of that running back group split? Is it all Jamal Williams? Do we get to see this supposed Craig Reynolds?
You did last week, but I think that was mostly just because DeAndre Swift was more limited than normal. I think it's mostly just going to be Swift and Jamal Williams. Justin Jackson will be out there as the kick returner, but he hasn't really had an opportunity to do so. So far, everyone's just basically kicking it out of the end zone, which is the right strategy. I'm not sure. The Lions, by the way, don't think that's the right strategy. They're going to kick it short basically every time, until the first time it burns them, and then they're probably going to go into a shell after that. But that's beside the point.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I think it's mostly kind of a 1-2 punch there, and I think Swift is going to be in a better spot than he was last week. I don't know if they're going to really give him the full 20 touches that they probably want to get him every week. So if they don't, then I think you might see a little bit of Craig Reynolds, and he's almost kind of a mixture of the two, honestly. He's a little more quick than Jamal. He'll probably break one more tackle than Jamal, which is 0. If I'm being completely honest with Jamal, like he'll fall forward and he'll find the hole, and that's all that they really want out of him. But yeah, it's going to be mostly the Swift and Jamal show, and that's worked for them plenty good so far.
All right. Hopefully they spread the wealth and let Justin Jackson get some carries. Awful joke. I'm sorry.
I enjoyed it.
Okay, I was going to talk about Jared Goff, but let's actually talk about this receiving group, Amon-Ra and the silhouettes, I guess. I don't know. Well, okay, so what is the deal here? So I like Quintus Cephas a lot. I don't think he's gotten much play. No. Josh Reynolds feels like he was kicked around for a little bit. Like it feels like, this might be a home for him. I haven't seen a ton from him. DJ Chark hasn't gotten as many receptions as you'd like. You mentioned that Jared Goff missed him a couple of times. Can you characterize this receiving group for me?
It's a little bit of everything. They certainly like to move all these guys around and move them in different roles. Although, I think I expected a little bit more moving from DJ Chark. He's a guy that they've been saying we're not just going to use him like a deep threat like they did in Jacksonville.
He can play everything, yeah.
Right. You hear that from every team, right? And usually doesn't live up to that expectations. But this Lions coaching staff usually has, just hasn't with Chark yet, for whatever reason. Josh Reynolds, I think, is a guy that Jared Goff is very comfortable with. He gave the offense a spark last year towards the end of the season, and obviously had a previous relationship with Goff with Los Angeles. And so I think speed is really the thing that they value the most out of these guys, which is why you don't see a lot of Quintus Cephas, because he's just not a fast guy. But there is something to be said. Like, this coaching staff really seems to like talking about their blocking abilities, which, listen, when you're running team like that matters. It turns good runs into great runs, as they say. But with the amount of times that they talk about how good of a blocker they are, that's like, okay, but that's not the primary job.
Laquan Treadwell? He's available.
Maybe.
We just gave a Laquan Treadwell signed jersey to an unlucky fan.
But it was interesting going into the season, because I was wondering, when they make all these offseason additions to the receiving core, does that mean that maybe Amon-Ra is the market share of him is finally going to even out a little bit, and he isn't going to get all these receptions like he did towards the end of last year? And the answer so far is obviously no. He is still kind of the center of what they do. And I think last week against Washington was a great example of that, because the first half they sent him in motion almost every single play, and they basically lulled Washington to sleep, and then hit him with that end around that went for 58 yards because they stopped paying attention to it, essentially. And so I think everything kind of revolves around him, and whether it's using him as a decoy, whether it's using him in the slot on the outside, he's the guy that kind of makes the offense turn and hopefully opens up opportunities for other guys. But again, it's kind of just been his show so far.
So on your podcast, I characterized him as more of a technician than an athlete, but a pretty decent athlete. He seems to be more of his separation seems to more come from route running,
Sure.
Even though like he's not like a 4.6 guy or anything by any means. How would you characterize him?
I think that's a good start, but really and I hate to give a little coach speak here, but it really it's a mentality with him that makes him so special. That's as the Lions like to say,
he competes on every play. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like that's his.
Man.
That's I know it sounds corny. I know it sounds like coach speak, but like this. I mean,
you're letting Dan Campbell infect you, man.
Maybe that's what it is. But like, he literally spends every practice 202 reps at the jugs machine, and
there's got to be a significance to that number. Is it like a phone area code or something?
No, it was like he did 200 at first, and then another guy did 201. He's like, well, then now I got to do 202, and
that's so football, man. Oh my
it's
God.
very. I mean, that's who he is, though. Like. He is just the most football.
I guess like reading about his family. I should link an article about his family. She follows. Yeah.
Right. John Brown, his dad is, if you didn't watch Hard Knocks, that dude is a character. Calling out, was it Kevin Garnett that he called out? Just always getting injured.
Yeah.
Whatever. But yeah,
so for people unfamiliar, so John Brown, which by the way, phenomenal name. Yeah. Right, like the history of John Brown. So I'm not even talking about Smokey the receiver. Remarkable in American history, but also, so he's a 2-time Mr. Universe that calls his own. So first of all, he changed all of his son's last names to Saint Brown, even though he was Brown, and then he named him after like Egyptian figures, right?
Yes.
And then he calls them his house of. This is his words, by the way. His house of 4.0 thugs. Right? So that's who this guy is. He has. Some people have compared him to like the LeVar Ball of football. I think that like might be unfair, but like the degree to which he has pushed his kids into being workaholic athletes does kind of resemble the build them up from birth type style of athlete that, you know, people were worried about with Marinovich and that we got to see a little bit with the balls. So like that does follow from like I'll do 202. That does follow from that, but it's
no question. And
it's a wild story. I encourage people to learn about it or watch
100%. Yeah. And with Amon-Ra, it's weird because you almost seem like the amount of work that he puts in is like, okay, but there has to be a point of diminishing returns. Like you're overworking yourself at some point.
That's what happened to Laquan Treadwell.
But I mean, you can't argue with the results so far. I mean, I hate to use a comparison to a Hall of Fame player, but he reminds me so much of Hines Ward in just the effort he puts in, the blocking. Like he's a vicious blocker out there at times, and
does he do it with a smile? That's the important part.
No, it's quite the opposite. That guy does not smile.
No Hines Ward comparison for me.
Oh, shoot. All right. Well, a malaised Hines Ward then.
But no, who was it? Jeff Risdon said he was very Hines Ward-esque too. So you're not alone in this.
Okay, I'll take that.
Mostly because Amon-Ra just named or Amon-Ra was looking for Diami Brown, who was drafted in the same draft class taken before him in the 2020 draft. Said during the Washington game, I was looking for Diami Brown. I didn't see him in the game much. Like so was it during Hard Knocks? He was given like a list of all the receivers that were drafted before him.
That's right. Yep. He knows all 16 or 17 of them.
Dude, some of them are like really good receivers. It's not like Brady 6, right? It's like, man, I can't believe you drafted Giovanni Carmazzi ahead of me. Like, all right, good point, Brady. Like, let it go. It's been 20 years, but good point. But this is like, you drafted AJ Brown ahead of me? Like, yeah, dude, I did.
Right. I mean, there's definitely some on both sides, right? There's Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith. Like, all those guys are good, but there's also Tutu Atwell, who doesn't have a catch yet.
Well, that's fair.
Amari Rogers.
Wait, wasn't that a Brad Holmes pick?
No.
I mean, it's a Les Snead, I know, but
Yes. Guilt by association
I
there,
just
maybe.
wanted to put that in there, yeah.
Someone named Des Fitzpatrick?
Yeah.
I don't know who that is.
He's
But
a
he's
guy.
drafted three picks before Amon-Ra was.
Fair enough. So it's just like, this is like such an interesting story. I've glossed over the rest of this preview. All right, let's talk about Jared Goff, who surely by now knows which direction the sun rises. Is now is the actual time I'm going to flip it back on you. Is he a good quarterback?
I mean, no. Lions fans are going to kill me for it, but no.
Wait, so your partner in the podcast was taking all the heat
yeah,
for hating him, and yet you secretly also had the same opinion.
yeah. Well,
Secretly,
I don't know if it's that secret for people that have been following me around.
secretly.
It was more about his performance last week because he was kind of really bad in the first half and then really good in the second half, which I think is just that's Jared Goff's story. Like he's inaccurate most of the time, which means sometimes he's going to look really good, sometimes he's going to look really bad. And the worst aspect of his game is anything off platform, right? He has to be so structured. Everything around him has to be so perfect, so pristine that the minute anything falls apart, it's just like, what do I do with my hands? He doesn't seem to understand how to get out of plays. He doesn't seem to understand going through his route progression beyond, maybe the first couple reads. And, it really puts a cap on what I think the Lions can do. That said, the Lions have done just about everything they can do to put him in as comfortable of a box as possible. They surround him with wide receivers that he's comfortable with. They give him an offensive line that on paper is supposed to be really good if it ever gets healthy. And like I said, they reach out to the Rams playbook and try to incorporate as much of that sort of stuff that he's comfortable and good at doing. And so far it's been fine. I mean, Ben Johnson has seemed to find something that works and makes him, I guess the thing that the Lions have just been good at doing thus far is finding ways to hide all the stuff that he's not very good at. But it's only a matter of time before you get pressured, before, receiver is in the right spot and you have to figure out what to do. And
so my concern for this particular game is that, Ben Johnson is like, hey man, how do I kind of unlock this offense? How do I unlock you? How do I make you, the best quarterback you can be? And he's like, well, here's the key, right? Here's the key to that offense. And the Vikings employ the key maker, right? Like that feels like an issue.
Sure. Yeah. It seems like, and I was wondering about that too. Like how much overlap between both these offenses are there and how much does that help the other defense? Knowing exactly how that works and playing against it all off season, essentially. It's interesting because Kevin O'Connell certainly is going to know a lot about Jared Goff and what he's capable of doing. And I guess the question is, do the Lions have enough weapons where it won't matter? And so far the answer has been yes, but this is definitely a unique week. And I mean, I guess this is always how it works when you're in week 3 and you have two very different games from both teams in week 1 and week 2.
Yeah.
But it just, I don't know how this is going to play out at all. I don't know how much is real. I don't know how much is fake. I don't know how much, I don't know anything. I feel like I don't know anything, Arif. Why am I here?
It's like I'm navigating a David Bowie song right now. What's going on? Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the real stars of the offense. Let's talk about this offensive line.
Sure.
They've been missing like some of their best players, right? Yeah. And they've still been mashing, right? They've still been good, according to you, not according to PFF. What's going on here? Like, I know Taylor Decker is Taylor Decker. He can be really great. He can be really annoying. Penei Sewell seems to be good. Like, I don't know if there's any way to qualify that. And then there's this interior that seems like a jumbled mess. Like Dan Skipper is playing guard somehow. Yeah. I'm saying somehow for people who don't know, he might be the tallest player in the league. Maybe
he measured the tallest guard, right?
He's got to be the tallest guard, right? In college, he measured at 6'10", or he was listed as 6'10". It turns out At the combine, he was 6'9". That's like one of those things where it's like, I know everybody lies about their height, especially in sports, like by an inch or two, but that's particularly true in basketball. And but like when you're 6, there's no reason at 6'9". Right? Like, and I was gonna be like, "No, I thought he was really tall. I guess never mind." Right? But so he's 6'9". He's probably the tallest starting player in the league, and he's playing guard. But he's done all right. You've got Logan Stenberg, who plays with the attitude you want a Dan Campbell player to play with.
Correct.
And he's more of a run blocker than a pass blocker.
Understatement, sure.
And people hate playing against him. I think these are all true.
I think you nailed it. And I feel like a lot of that is kind of true of all of their guys.
That's true, yeah. But and then Evan Brown has been playing in place of Frank Ragnow, who might be healthy enough to play. It was not a groin problem for Frank Ragnow; it's been a foot problem. I know that he has groin issues in the past, and I think still might. I don't know.
Yeah, the week 1 he popped a groin. I think in the lead. No, in the lead. No, it was after week 1. No, it was before week 1. I don't know. All these offensive line injuries are running into each other because it's not even just the
Jonah Jackson. It's a finger. For Frank Ragnow, it's a groin and an ankle.
And Halabuli Vaitai had back surgery before, in week 1.
Big V had I'm an enormous human syndrome.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Tommy Kramer also, I think, had a back injury, and he's on IR. So
I forgot his name was Tommy Kramer. Good Lord.
So yeah, four
Vikings
interior
quarterback
guys.
legend Tommy Kramer was playing guard for the Lions.
Wait, what? There's a Vikings quarterback named Tommy Kramer?
2-minute Tommy? Come on, man.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I don't know these.
Yeah, he's on
esoteric
Twitter.
references.
Kramer 9 Tommy. He's fun. No, he was like, one of those legendary quarterbacks that, wasn't ever one of the league's top 5 quarterbacks, but had some great moments. It's one of those guys, right? It's like outside of Seattle, you're expected to know Dave Krieg. Sorry. No, I don't. He's one of those guys.
The first name that jumped into mind, and this is 100% because of what he tweeted today, was Sage Rosenfeld. Is that fair?
No, Sage Rosenfeld is like a career backup. Tommy Kramer started for quite a while. And he had some great moments. He had a bunch of good comebacks relative to the amount of time he played. Anyway, Tommy Kramer, would he have started?
He would have probably been the starter in place of Vaitai for sure.
All right, so top 3 offensive line, now down to top 5 offensive line, Detroit Lions. Okay, so I danced around it, but Logan Stenberg is garbage in pass protection and plays like an a-hole.
Yes, perfectly said.
Okay,
and it's not even anything fancy that you have to do with Logan. He just can't do it. Like stunts, whatever. That one-on-one, he can't win.
So I promise you, they're going to do the fancy stuff, though.
Well, I don't know. Maybe that helps him a little bit. It gives him a little more time because if you just run right at him, that's enough.
All right, better going forwards than backwards. Got it.
Yeah.
So if Evan Brown has to play center instead of Frank Ragnow, what's kind of the deal with him?
I'm still shocked that Evan Brown did not seek a starting level contract somewhere, and maybe it just wasn't out there. But he's a guy who played 12 or 13 games for Frank Ragnow last year and did a really good job with it. And he's actually a more balanced guy than some of the other guys on this offensive line, where I think he's decent in pass protection and still very good in run blocking. But yeah, the Lions brought him back on like almost a vet minimum or an RFA or something. I can't quite remember what it was, but I was just shocked that he didn't go out and challenge for a starting job somewhere, because I feel like this might be the last year he's in Detroit because he has that kind of potential.
Well, so I think that the Lions do have the rights to restrict his free agency. I don't remember because he originally signed with the Giants. I don't think they
used to tender on him, though.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I don't know how it works when it's like an undrafted free agent, signs with one team, gets waived a bunch, signs with another team, gets waived a bunch, signs with another team, gets waived. So I don't really know what the deal with the contract situation there is. I would have figured that they had a restricted right, but who knows? Yeah. So he's a balanced player, does all right, probably a starting quality player that just hasn't gotten, I don't know, his due, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's weird to say that considering I think Frank Ragnow might be the best player on the entire team, that his injury is one of the least to worry about on that offensive line just because they have the best backup.
All right. And then Taylor Decker. What's up?
Yeah. Good pass blocker. I mean, I think he's still underrated as a pass blocker. He's not quite as aggressive in the run game, and he's getting up there in age as well. But, he's a captain, I believe, this year. And he's fine. I think he's still a top 15 left tackle, which, I mean, that's good, right? Left tackle's a hard position.
Yeah, it's a difficult position. Is Penei Sewell a top 15 right tackle?
Yes. I can say that a little bit more definitively. I think he's
top 10.
Yes.
All right.
We're going to just leave it there.
All right. Great.
Okay.
All right. Tell me about tight end and tell me why Shane Zylstra, a Minnesota native, is not getting more snaps.
He's not the balanced tight end that they like. Brock Wright. It's interesting. Like, him and Brock Wright were both undrafted guys last year, came in at the same time, and essentially like went through the same career path where it was just like, yeah, you're just going to stay on the practice squad. Oh, wait, we don't have any more tight ends. You guys are both suddenly 1 and 2. And Brock essentially won out that competition because he can do both. He's a little bit more of a blocker. They've been using him a little bit at tight end because the Lions' starting tight end has been on IR since the beginning of training camp. Or not IR, one of the other ones. NFI? Pup, one of those.
PUP?
I think it's Pup. Okay. Either way, so I think they like Brock's versatility a little bit, and then obviously TJ is their dude. So, just they'll still get sprinkled in.
Has Hawkinson been a disappointment?
I think so. Yeah. This year, I listen.
This year, not like in totality.
A little bit in totality too, but not as much. I feel like he's kind of regressing a little bit. Maybe, and maybe that's not fair to him. Maybe it's just the matter of the Lions have more weapons around him, so they don't have to zero in on him as much. But when you come from Iowa and you're billed as this kind of two-way guy who can really, run block and be a speedy, big receiving option, and you kind of only live up to half of that, and maybe not even that, kind of big disappointment. I mean, I think you came in with George Kittle expectations and got, 55% George Kittle, which is, you'd think that'd be kind of good, but it's, I don't know. It is a little bit of a disappointment. He doesn't feel like an explosive threat in the passing game. He's fine. He's got somewhat reliable hands, but he's not as athletic. I guess his athletic. I don't want to say he's not athletic. He's athletic, but you don't really see it a lot out there. He's not breaking away. It doesn't
seem to get expressed on the field.
Right. Exactly. And not a lot of yards after the catch. Not breaking wide open. And then as a run blocker, it just hasn't clicked. And that's a big part of what the Lions do. So, they're facing down this decision pretty soon about whether they're going to extend him. And I kind of feel like I'm leaning right now. The answer might be no, but Dan Campbell's obviously a former tight end himself. So he's going to know better than me, whether Hockenson is the kind of guy they want to keep around. But I would definitely say, at least in the Dan Campbell era, I would say it's fair to call him a disappointment.
All right. So before we talk about the defense, and I'm definitely going to keep you long. Sorry about that.
I did to you, so it's fair.
Yeah, no, it's retaliation. My retaliation is more work for me. I need to know if this is real. How did Dan Campbell scout Vikings Eagles on Monday Night Football? Normally, like any fan would, I fell over backwards in my chair drunk after the second half. I couldn't even take notes anymore. Woke up, couldn't read my notes, but I'm back in this morning, took some aspirin, we're good.
So
I'm not asking if that really happened. I'm asking if that's a real quote.
He did say that on the local radio station. That is 100% a real quote. I'm fairly certain he was joking, but there was enough in there for me to think,
yeah, maybe
that was a half truth.
There's probably, he definitely took some aspirin this morning. That's what I'm going to say about that.
Yeah. Yes.
There was a debate on another podcast I'm on about whether it was real. I came down on the side of maybe that's a fake account. I don't believe that it's real. But okay, he did say it on local Detroit radio. Fantastic. Good to hear. Now let's talk. God, I love Dan Campbell so much, man. Now let's talk about the defense. One of your sort of sack leaders, Aiden Hutchinson, got them all in one game against a guy who likes to run into sacks. I strongly believe Aiden Hutchinson will be a high-level pass rusher, but I just feel like based off of camp reports, the preseason, and what I've seen, he's not actually there yet.
No, I think that's fair. I don't think he's winning a lot of one-on-ones at this point, and he's also getting a lot of double teams. I think,
that's
Seth Walden put out that double team rate chart that he likes to throw out there, and Aiden Hutchinson was second most in terms of double team rate. So yeah, it's going to take time, and he's not really a technician when it comes to his pass rush. A lot of it is kind of that Amon-Ra St. Brown crazy motor and just like not giving up on plays. And listen, that there's value to that, right?
Yeah.
And that's I think how he picked up at least 2 of those sacks on Sunday against Washington. But yeah, I think the other stuff will come. The Lions certainly are acting like there's absolutely no concern, and they're getting the guy that they thought they got. But yeah, I think that's a fair assessment in terms of, he's not, and I think most people are saying this from the get go. He's not the Bosa guy that a lot of people.
Oh, most people are saying that for the get go, because when I wrote that there was work to be done with my first round pick wrap up over at The Athletic, a bunch of Lions fans were like, yeah, but he got a bunch of sacks in the preseason. You didn't mention that, huh? This guy's biased against the Lions, that's a charge against me that comes up a lot for some reason.
The Lions fans are pretty. It's interesting too, because when you draft a local guy like a he's from Michigan, obviously,
Michigan man.
There's a dichotomy split in the Lions fandom, because half of them are Michigan State fans and hate the guy.
Do the Spartans think he's going to fail
after game 1 where he had only 1 tackle? They were calling him the bust.
Beautiful. Oh my god.
Yeah. So
you don't have that split in Minnesota.
No. Well, do you have 2 college teams?
That's what I mean.
Okay. Okay, good.
Well, I mean, okay, so you've got the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers, and then you've got the much more successful at the NFL level Minnesota State Mankato. I would not characterize those 2 teams as rivals.
No, probably not. Do they even play each other ever?
No.
Okay, that's fun.
You've got more Minnesota State Mankato alums on the team than Gophers on the team. I think it's 2-1.
That's impressive. I didn't know that. On the Vikings?
Yeah, on the Vikings. There's also a Minnesota State Mankato guy on the Lions, right? Shane Zylstra?
Oh yeah, that's right. How could I not remember?
I can't believe you. I don't think you got any Gophers, do you?
I don't think so.
I don't see any. Maybe I'm missing one, but yeah. See? This is what I mean.
Well,
this game is going to outnumber Gophers 3-1. Anyway, none of them got scholarships. Okay. It's enough Aiden Hutchinson talk. I mostly asked you that so I could vindicate myself, and I asked you a leading question. But you agreed with me, and that's all that matters.
Ah, jeez. Fell right into your trap.
Well, no, I liked him as a draft pick. It was just I was doing my roundup, and a bunch of Lions fans got mad at me because I was like, yeah, it sounds like there's a lot more work to do before he can really splash onto the scene. And then, that first game happens. I'm like, okay, great. I'm right. And then the second game happens. I'm like, well, Carson Wentz. I mean, that doesn't, everyone gets sacks against Carson Wentz. All right. So another one of my biases. That one's true, though. When people accuse me of being biased against Carson Wentz, that one's accurate.
Yeah, I can see that.
But when I don't like it when the Lions draft a linebacker, suddenly I'm the villain, even though they cut that guy 4 times. Look. I like the Lions, okay? I just wish they made better choices. You got a
funny way of showing it, Arif.
I wish they made better choices. And you do too. Let's talk about the defensive tackles that are both nose tackles.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so is Aleem McNeil living up to, because a lot of people loved him in that draft.
Right.
And then he gets drafted in the 3rd round, and a bunch of people are like, yeah, this is a really good pick. Steal, maybe? I don't know if steal is the right word, but, great pick. How has he lived up to that?
I think he's doing a little bit more dirty work than people expected, because I think you look at him and you hope you've got like a Dontari Poe guy who's just going to be a complete wrecking ball in the middle. The Lions actually changed his role.
We got a younger audience now. You got to call him Kenny Clark or something for that to connect.
But here's the thing. He's playing 3-tech now. Almost not exclusively, but a lot of 3-tech now. Because here's the thing. They got blown up in the first preseason game, and they kind of like said, okay, we gotta change things up here. And it's kind of it seems like maybe an overreaction to a preseason game a little bit, but at the same time, it's kind of worked. So now they got Isaiah Buggs as kind of their nose tackle, and they're playing Aleem out at the 3, which I think he's still learning a little bit. I think he's still kind of getting the hang of, and as big as he is, it's a tough task for him to ask, but he still does have that first explosive step that I think he's going to thrive in. And in terms of run defense, I think it's working. Those guys are taking up a lot of space and letting those linebackers run free. And it's, I know they got kind of blown up by the Eagles in week 1, but they're going to do that to pretty much every team, especially when you got Jalen Hurts, who's, untackleable at times. But in terms of just running between the tackles, I think that strategy has really worked. In terms of interior pass rush, they're barely using him on those, 3rd and long situations. They are a little bit, and maybe a little bit more than they did in week 1. But I think they're just kind of asking him to do dirty work right now. And it's doing what they want to do. It's probably not doing what a lot of people thought he was capable of doing or thought his role might be at the next level, but it's what they want to do. And so far, okay results. I know they've given him a ton of points, but they did shut out Washington for a half. So that's something.
That's something. Yeah. Why not?
Why not?
All right. And speaking of pass rush, right, there's a lot of focus on Aiden Hutchinson, a lot of focus on the fact that they like to stuff the run. What is going on the other side of the line from Aiden Hutchinson? Who's the other pass rusher? Is Charles Harris going to take Cousins down for like another 8 times somehow?
That's the hope. And I thought Charles Harris had a really good season last year in 2021, and he was another guy that was kind of a victim of a high double team rate last year, and now it's much less because Aiden Hutchinson's on the other side, and because they have those kind of big guys in the middle eating up a couple blocks. But it hasn't quite yet come together. I saw it in the preseason. I saw it in training camp. I thought he was going to come out a little more hot than he has, but he did have a strip sack safety in last week's game. So maybe he's turned a corner there.
If he had real hustle, it would have been a strip sack touchdown.
That's true. He doesn't have that Dan Campbell grit enough. He's still working that out.
It's a 5-point swing.
Right. But yeah, the Lions are very selective in their pass rush, and I feel like
why didn't Charles Harris work out in Atlanta?
You'll have to ask them. I don't know. Bring on someone from the Atlanta.
Okay, fine, fair enough. I would have expected you, a Lions reporter, to kind of dig into these stories, but maybe I'm asking too much.
Yeah, come on. I'm just a blogger, all right? I'm not a reporter.
Yeah, you're just in the locker room. Yeah, okay.
That's right. He has said in the past he felt like he was maybe being a little bit misused at times, but I guess the thing with the Lions pass rush is like they're very selective in when they do it. A
lot of setting edge type stuff.
Yeah, because the kind of philosophy that the coaches have said a million times, and now you're starting to hear the players say it a million times, is you have to earn the right to pass rush, and that just basically means
I've heard that a bunch.
Yeah, stop them on 1st and 2nd round. So, like I was saying on my podcast, like they really are focused on stopping the run and getting into obvious passing downs, and then just using those NASCAR packages where you're kicking Aiden Hutchinson inside. A lot of times he's literally right next to Charles Harris, while you got some other guys kind of scattered about, all pass rushers, and that's when they'll really turn up the heat. That they do blitz a lot, and I think they're being a little more aggressive maybe on 1st and 2nd down than they were last year for sure, because I think they have better personnel to do it. But I think overall their philosophy still is like, we're not going to turn up the heat until we know that's going to work. All right.
So you mentioned that they really like to stop the run a couple of times, and that a lot of that is in service of, making sure they clean the path of the linebackers to get the ball. So definitely good starting linebackers, Jarrad Davis and Jelani Tavai. Sorry. I'm using this podcast like I use every podcast to air my grievances about fans of the other team. And I called both picks bad. Lions fans got mad at me and then sent me training camp videos of Jelani Tavai getting a pick in practice.
Man, now I don't want to call any specific one person out, but there is one national person who may or may not be in charge of a bowl for older college players that said those two were going to be stalwart linebackers for this team for a very long time. And I got in an argument with him, and then he deleted those tweets 3 years later.
Sorry, Andy Benoit runs a bowl?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Wink.
I'm going to call him out. That's fine. I'm good. Okay, so wait, did the Rams let him go?
Rams let who go?
Andy Benoit.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, right?
Maybe?
Okay, so people I actually liked in the draft, Rodrigo and Alex Anzalone, they're the starting ones, right? Or am I missing
They are.
one?
Yep.
Okay.
Nope.
So Alex Anzalone, I'm pronouncing that right. It's like Abalone.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yes.
Has he been healthy? Because like in New Orleans, he could only get hurt, and then in college, he could only get hurt. Florida, I think.
Yeah. He dealt with an injury last year, but so far so good this year.
It's only been 2 games.
It has, but listen, he was kind of the bane of a lot of Lions fans. I mean, the linebacking core was last year was awful. It was him and a rotating cast of characters. Jamie Collins was here for a while, and then he very much did not reach the appropriate grit meter to be in Detroit, so they let him go. And then it was between Derek Barnes, their 4th round pick, I think, last year, and Jalen Reeves may have been a special teams guy who they didn't retain this year. So
Derek Barnes, pass rusher, right? That they made a linebacker?
Yeah, he had played 1 year of off ball at Purdue his senior year. But before that, primarily a pass rusher. So he's still kind of getting used to that. And now you're at a point of his career where it's like, okay, you've had one college year, you've had one pro career. Is it going to happen? And I don't know what the answer is, but last week he was just a special teamer. So Rodrigo just shot right past him up the depth chart, and for good reason, man. He's killing it right now.
Yeah, so Malcolm Rodriguez, nickname Rodrigo. Is that a Dan Campbell assigned nickname?
That's a good question.
Sounds like one, right?
It kind of does. I mean, and he's just been nicknaming everybody, but I feel like I kind of get the impression that was everybody. Like everyone just started calling him Rodrigo, which sure. It's not very creative in any sort of way. And I think Dan Campbell throws a little more creative stuff out there. Like he calls Josh Reynolds the Serpent of Death. I like that one a lot better than Rodrigo.
Yeah, it's cooler, but it doesn't really roll off the tongue.
That's true.
Also, doesn't Josh Reynolds have like 3 nicknames?
Everyone has 3 nicknames on this team.
Okay. Yeah. So like, what's the skill set of Rodrigo?
It's so he's a former quarterback. So I think a lot of it.
We had one of those. You got cut.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is processing speed. I really do. I think he's extremely quick to the ball, and then I hate to bring up kind of the
no, don't say it.
What the wrestling? Can I say it?
Fine, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, you do see some of the wrestling influence there. He's undersized by some people's measures, and he does know leverage. I feel like because of his wrestling.
He knows,
background.
he knows all the.
I'm sorry. I wasn't going to.
The Vikings, for a long time, drafted all these former wrestling defensive linemen. So I've heard of it all.
I'm picking at a scab here. I didn't realize.
No, it's fine.
He has been really fun to watch, though, and it's really mostly the processing speed, and because the Lions are kind of this more attacking scheme where they are just asking their linebackers to run downfield. He's a perfect fit for what they want to do.
Secondary. I think this is probably going to win or lose the game for the Lions.
Yeah.
You've got Amani Oruwariye. I got close to that pronunciation. I'll take it.
Yeah, no, that was great.
Jeff Okudah and what was this? Mike Huggs?
Hughes?
What's going on? Really? Is that
have you heard of him?
The G silent or something? What's going on here? These strange names. Don't know what to do with them. Oruwariye, yeah, I get that. That's intuitive, but what's this? Okay, so Mike Hughes, former Kansas City Chief, and briefly, longtime Viking. Kind of a disappointment. Had a couple of interesting moments with the Chiefs, but they kept burying him on the depth chart, leading to an interesting situation where he would have 10 snaps and a great PFF grade, and a bunch of Vikings fans I can't believe the Vikings cut this guy. And then the Chiefs bench him. And the Viking fans are still like, I can't believe the Vikings cut this guy. Look at how good his PFF grade is. And then the Chiefs chose not to keep him. And Vikings fans are like, hey, can't believe they cut this guy, but they could fix that. They could get him back. And they choose not to. And the Lions get him. And he's playing in the nickel, which I think was kind of a thought that the Vikings sort of had that they didn't really get to fully explore because he was a disappointment. So what is going on with him? And is Jeff Okudah like good, or just like good? And is Amani Oruwariye, that wasn't as good as the first time, going to get crushed by Justin Jefferson?
Oh boy.
In order,
what order do I want to answer those in? Let's start with Jeff Okudah. I feel like that might be the most positive answer for me. And it's taking the second of your options, which is he's just good right now.
Okay.
It's fair to him because this is like his 12th career game. He lost half of his rookie season with a core injury. He lost all of his second season with an Achilles injury in week 1. And so he's still learning the position. He's still learning the NFL level of play, but the dude attacked the Achilles rehab really well, and he's a smart player. He still, I think, has a lot of the athletic traits. I don't think he lost many in the rehab from the Achilles. And so it's been a promising start. I thought he did a really good job against Terry McLaurin last week.
Did he do a good job against Terry McLaurin, or did Carson Wentz do a poor job getting in the ball?
I'm going to plead the fifth on that one. But I will say that McLaurin did most of his damage when Jeff Okudah was not guarding him. So therefore, Jeff Okudah shut him down. We're going to say that's how that works.
So who was covering him?
Well, last week it was a little bit of Will Harris because Amani was dealing with a back injury. But he's a guy that they move around, and a little bit of Mike Hughes, who did not play particularly well last week.
That's last week, huh?
Yeah, just last. I mean, the first week I feel like he was pretty. I mean, Jalen Hurts didn't throw the ball at all. He didn't have to throw the ball at all in week 1, so he didn't really get tested. Yeah, that nickel job is interesting because it was between him and last year's undrafted rookie AJ Parker, who played most of last year as a starter.
Hey, when I dug on AJ Parker last year, like whoa, Reef, let's not insult AJ Parker. And I was like, well, but like, look, he's a starter, man. I got to talk about him like he's a starter. He's like, look, he had this great story. He's an undrafted free agent rookie. You got to give him some great. And now he's not on the team.
Well, he's on the practice squad.
Now he's not on the team.
Yeah. Well, I didn't realize this was going to be a gotcha moment, but
look, I don't even do this to other guests. I'm just airing my grievances about specifically my Lions takes, and you're at the other end of it, and you either have to weather it or you leave. I don't know, man. It's up to you.
I mean, how much more time do we got here?
As much as I want.
Oh, okay. Well,
we have 15 20-minute segments coming up for you.
That's right. Yeah, so nickel job is definitely a weakness on this defense right now. I want to give the benefit of Mike Hughes because he's new here, but it sounds like based on your observations, maybe I shouldn't.
Okay, sure. Yeah, why not?
Yeah. And Amani's okay. I've kind of been a little bit more of a quote unquote hater of him than other people. I think some people think his ceiling is a 1, as a CB1. I don't think that's it at all. I think he's an okay 2, like an average 2, which is fine. Like you need those guys on your roster, but if he's lined up against Justin Jefferson, he's not going to follow him around. Let's be clear.
Sure.
The Lions typically like to play sides. So I don't think he's just going to get toast by Justin Jefferson all day unless the Vikings decide he's the guy to go after and they keep him on that side all day. Which, I mean, that might happen.
A possibility.
I could see that happening. There's A.J. Brown went off on the secondary in week 1, and I think a lot of that was against Amani, who at times tried to punch him at the line and just straight up whiffed. I hope he doesn't try to do that against Justin Jefferson, but the Lions do like to be a little physical with their corners because they are big and long.
It's also like the nature of the team.
Right. Yes, exactly. Very much so. I just don't know if that's the strategy against Justin Jefferson.
It very much feels like the Lions team has a vibe, and then they build the scheme around that.
Right. It's fair.
All right. Okay. So the safeties. So the Lions are I think the most recent benefactor of the catch and release program for safeties.
Sure.
I like Deshaun Elliott, but like the Ravens have like 18 safeties, and then they just drafted a first round one. So
right.
A couple of years ago, I thought Tracy Walker was poised to be a really high level safety, and that never really happened.
Yeah.
Tell me about him. Tell me about Deshaun Elliott. Tell me about Kirby Joseph. What's going on there?
Yeah, you're not going to see a lot of Kirby. Maybe not any of Kirby. He's
people unfamiliar with third round pick from this year's draft.
Yeah, and he's a guy that I think from the get go, it was pretty much understood he was going to be a developmental guy, and so that's what he's been. I'm trying to remember if he definitely hasn't had any defensive stamps yet, and I think he's just kind of learning the ropes as a special teamer. So probably don't need to talk about him at all, to be quite honest. Maybe next time around, when I don't know, when is it that these two teams play again?
Man, do they have a Thanksgiving game, or do you know who you playing on Thanksgiving?
No, we got the Bills on Thanksgiving.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Yeah, thanks schedule makers for that. It's like the December 11th, week 14. So maybe by then we'll talk some Kirby Joseph, but for now you can just pretend he doesn't exist. That's fine. Deshaun, go ahead.
Well, okay. So if it's not him, then was it the good Melifonwu?
It's hard to call him the good Melifonwu since
the bad one's not in
really
the league,
done anything.
Okay?
He's not Obi. Yeah, so he might be worth talking about this game. He missed the first 2 weeks with an injury, but it seems like he's probably poised to make his debut. The question is where, because they haven't deployed a lot of 3 safety looks, which is a bit surprising because I thought they liked that last year. Maybe it's just they don't think they have the personnel yet, and maybe Iffy getting back, Ifeatu Melifonwu, will help out that. Maybe he helps out in the slot a little bit. He's also another tall, long guy, and a former corner. They transitioned him to safety this offseason. So maybe he's the answer at nickel. And we see less Mike Hughes, maybe. But yeah, your starters are Deshaun and Tracy Walker. And yeah, I think you accurately described Walker's kind of career trajectory, where it looked like he was about to take off, and then he kind of settled down. And listen, I think the tornado that was Matt Patricia did that to a lot of players' careers, a lot of young players' careers.
Yeah.
Oh
man,
so,
rip.
He's doing a great job over there in New England now. So good luck to him. But so they re-signed Tracy Walker this offseason. Dan Campbell gives him this big public speech about this being his team. He's a captain now, and so far so good. Honestly, this year I think he has taken a little bit of a step that you expect. The one thing he hasn't been able to do is force turnovers. He had a couple opportunities to catch interceptions last week, and they bounced off his hands. But he's making a lot of plays. He's a really physical player in the run game too, and I think he's got the right mentality to kind of be a versatile safety that can be good in coverage. A lot of, ton of athleticism to be kind of that rangy guy as well. And like I said, he's got that competitive nature to come down and be good in the box as well. And then I think Deshaun is more of the guy that's, they don't do free safety, strong safety thing, but he's kind of more that box guy who they've sent on blitzes a couple times, and he's gotten home. Definitely really good in run defense. I'm still trying to figure out him in coverage. They haven't really tested him much there, but I think they're pretty happy with where the safeties are. The story on Deshaun Elliott has always just been health.
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
With him, he's healthy right now, but like you said, it's week 3. We'll see.
All right. So real quickly on special teams, I remember his rookie year, Jack Fox. I was like, man, this guy's like one of the best. I mean, people are not giving him credit. He's incredible. I think he was my pick for the Pro Bowl, although there was another really good punter, I think, from the NFC. So it was really difficult. But he was like nailing stuff at like the 2 and the 1 and the 3. And like only like 30% of his punts were being returned. And he had like this incredible leg. And then last year it was just like, all right. Show's over, man. He's fine. But, he's got a couple more touchbacks. I think half of his punts were returned or something. His hang time wasn't there. This year seems to be doing all right. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, to be quite honest, the Lions haven't punted a whole lot.
Okay, yeah, fair.
So, man, you're really making me talk about punters, huh?
Yes.
Have we gotten that low? Yikes. No, he's fine. I think he's still top 10, top 5, maybe punter. He's got a hell of a leg. I think you're right in that maybe some of that fine tuning, pinning in inside the 20 stuff was maybe a mirage in that first year because it was it was incredible. Like you said, I think Johnny Hekker was probably the punter that was competing with him in the NFC.
Yeah, and people knew his name. That's
right.
The difference.
Exactly, right? But I think he's still a very, very good punter, and that they like to call him a field position optimization specialist.
God, this Lions team, man. I just wanted to see if Ryan Wright was better. It sounds like he is. All right, cool. Let's before we do game predictions, just real quick, biggest concern and biggest advantage the Lions have
in this matchup, particular or in general.
I like it. Like the biggest concern that you have about the Vikings Lions overall.
Got it. Yeah, I think it's Justin Jefferson. Like if I can just say one person,
that follows.
I think.
I mean, you could have picked anything. You could have said passing game. You could have said playing in a dome. You could have said anything. I didn't really care. But yeah, Justin Jefferson, that works.
Yeah, the Lions' best receiver they've gone against so far is A.J. Brown, and he tore them up in week 1. And I think
yeah, he did.
I think Justin Jefferson is more capable of doing that and more. You'd like to think the Lions are a little bit more prepared. Maybe their run defense is a little bit better, and they're able to get into more pass rush situations to mitigate some of that damage. But at some point, Justin Jefferson's going to get loose, and I don't think the Lions have an answer for that. I don't think they have the personnel to answer for that. And their secondary is just so young and so mediocre at best that's a pretty imbalanced matchup that I'm sure the Vikings are going to exploit at some point.
All right, and biggest advantage the Lions have.
Biggest advantage. Man, I really want to believe in this run game, Arif. I really do. And the fact that the Packers and the Eagles were able to find a lot of success on the ground makes me think that there's an advantage there. And man, I don't know. Like I've become so.
Are you are becoming infected by Dan Campbell? I was right.
No, this is me being the opposite. I'm fearful here because we've seen flat. I don't know if you're aware of the running back graveyard that Detroit has been. They've spent endless amount of second round picks on running backs, and none of them have worked since Barry Sanders. Like, you're aware of Amir Abdullah, I'm sure.
I'm familiar with the person. Yeah,
Javid Best.
Javid Best, by the way.
Kevin Jones. Kevin Smith. I think we drafted 3 Kevins in the 3rd round.
I think out of all of the Lions that have gone Ripperoonie at running back, my favorite might have been Javid Best.
Sure. Yeah. He was really fun for a half season.
Yeah, and then he got 1 concussion, and he was like, this one's a bad one. I'm out.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which, I mean, by the way, respect to him. This is not me saying, like, but it's just like, man, I can't believe, like, the Lions' luck that he got
right.
Mikel,
you remember Mikel LaShore? Another one of those guys.
Yeah.
That lasted, I think he had a Liz Frank that basically ended his career.
A gutty runner, Mikel LaShore.
Yeah. So, and any sign of success in the run game, I kind of tend to run in the opposite direction of just waiting for the other shoe to drop.
So DeAndre Swift, picture of health.
Yeah, exactly. But listen, it's I haven't seen this team run block as well in a very long time, and I know the advanced metrics don't show it, but if you just have to turn on the film and see some of these ridiculous.
God, you are.
Oh my god! I just turned into the look at the film guy.
You are.
Jesus. Oh my god! I hate it. Can I leave now?
Just one more 20-minute segment.
Okay.
All right. So Vikings are favored by 5 by consensus. I think they opened at 6 and it must have gotten bargained down to 5.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty big line move for what it's worth.
Sure.
I don't know what the over-under is, so I don't know what the implied score is, but give me your score prediction.
I technically write my previews tonight, so this is me putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
I really want to pick the Lions in this game. I really do, but for some reason, the more I talk to you It seems to have hit my confidence a little bit.
Oh, I do that to a lot of people about a lot of things.
Yeah. Why? Can you not do that anymore?
Why does everyone yell at me on Twitter? Unrelated.
I definitely think this is going to be a high scoring game, as every Lions game has been so far. I don't have a lot of trust in either team's defense. And yeah, I guess at this point, Kirk Cousins has pretty regularly torn apart this Lions defense in general. And I don't think, I think the Lions have a lot more playmakers than they have in the past on defense. They're still not there, and they still don't have an answer for Justin Jefferson. So I guess I'll go.
This was the biggest advantage section, by the way.
Yeah. Wait, no. Well.
Oh no! It was a prediction. No,
now,
prediction.
Yeah. Now we're on the prediction.
Yeah, we're prediction. So,
what are you doing to me?
How much do the Lions lose by then?
35-31 Vikings.
Oh,
Lions beat the spread. Lions are fantastic against the spread.
That's fair. All right, a backdoor cover or like competitive game?
No, the competitive game.
All right, dope. All right, thanks for coming on. It took an hour of your time. Again, this was revenge and not me rambling on and airing my grievances. Where can people find you?
On Twitter, mostly. That's where I spend most of my life. So just follow me there at Detroit Online and forget everything else. Who cares?
It's a great Twitter handle. We always get guests with phenomenal Twitter handles. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for indulging me both on your show and on my show. Are you coming to Minnesota?
No, not this year.
All right, I'll yell at you on Twitter on Sunday, man. See you then.
Sounds good.
All right, let's go to the mailbag. And the first question is from Cody, who asks, after Donatel confirmed that it was, in fact, Dantzler's fault on the long Watkins touchdown, why do you think Dantzler has been so susceptible to giving up long plays in his young career? Do you think it's bad luck and his lapses get exposed more than others, or is there a real problem?
So Dantzler actually had a couple of mistakes in the game. That was just one of them. It's just the thing is, when you make those kinds of mistakes and communication errors and stuff like that, the ones that get noticed are the big plays for big touchdowns and stuff. And so I think anybody who is susceptible to, certain kinds of miscommunication and coverage, it will seem like, they're susceptible in particular to giving up long plays. But it's just kind of the miscommunications are the ones that or at every level of the field, and those are the ones that get noticed. So I think that there is a problem, but I don't think it's like unique to, long touchdowns. I think it's just he needs to have an understanding of the shape of the defense from play to play.
Next question is from Damian Barrett, who asks, for Arif's Nerd Corner, what do the analytics say? I like how that's the beginning of the phrase. What do the analytics say? What do the stats say about kick returns from the end zone? Every time I see someone try to run it out, I can't help but think that the stats must say it's not worth it and to just take the touchback. Is it just potential gains that keep the teams trying?
So the data that I would like to have on this is, as far as I know, not public, but teams have been tracking it by yardage from the end zone. And so the Vikings analytics group or special teams group or whatever, Matt Daniels has consumed a ton of data, it sounds like, on this sort of stuff. And for him, he thinks it's worth the risk and reward when you're about 5 yards or shallower into the end zone, which, luckily, because end zones are 10 yards deep, that's about halfway through. So that makes it pretty easy for the kick return to kind of gauge whether or not they should bring it out. And then deeper than that, that is kind of a game situation thing and reading the block sort of thing. So, if it's late in the game and you're just trying to run out the clock and you've got a lead and the blocking opens up and it seems like there's a good return there, you might still want to take a knee, right? Because the point is to maintain possession, not have, whatever the percent chance of a fumble on a kick return is. I think it's higher than on a running play. So it's like 2.5% or something, pretty high. Make sure that you don't do that. Just take the knee and then you can kneel out the clock or something. Or, hey, you're behind, you need to make a big play, but the blocking's not there, kneel it out. But, in those situations where the blocking seems to be, opening up and you do need a big play, take it out. It also kind of depends on the returner, right? Cordero Patterson early on in his career was told not to take it out deep in the end zone, and he didn't listen, and he just did it, and it worked. And so they just stopped telling him to do anything. They were just like, well, I mean, you could figure it out, I guess. And he would sometimes take a knee. And, sometimes he'd just be like, yeah, I guess it's not there for me. Pretty rarely, but he would do it sometimes. So, it depends on the returner. Kenny Nwangwu is in that class of returner potentially where you can begin to think about, I'm not saying you do it right now, but you can begin to think about giving him a little bit more leeway when you're deeper out. But it sounds like, based off of average returner in the modern NFL, 5 yards or shallower, which again, that's a convenient one. So maybe it's not exactly that or precisely that, is when you do want to return it. That said, hey, I mean, the Vikings are apparently pretty good at forcing returns really shallow if you can get a bunch of hang time on those kickoffs. Like, if Greg Joseph continues to kick field goals at this rate, which is nice, he might generate a ton of field position value just from those fun kickoffs.
Let's go to the next question from All20Q, who asks, we saw Kirk Cousins take remarkable steps toward tolerance by encouraging the crowd to yell slay all game. Any concerns that media criticism of his performance will stunt this progress in the future? Any upcoming opponents who are good to evaluate his progress against?
This is such a weird cut. Okay, so this is obviously a joke about how Kirk Cousins threw to Darius Slay a bunch, and Darius Slay was very successful. But I assume this is also a reference to the fact that yelling Slay comes from queer culture, and Cousins in 2014, when asked about the possibility of working with gay teammates, said nobody's perfect. And so, in theory, this would be a step towards tolerance, but I don't think Cousins appropriating queer culture, which, mind you, Slay has gotten out of that bubble, so it wouldn't even be that, would be anything of the sort. Any concerns that media criticism of his performance will stunt the progress in the future? All20Q, please stuff it. This is such a weird question, man.
I just like the idea of stumbling toward tolerance.
Yeah. I mean, look, Albert Breer seemed to be taking that step today. We'll see. Any upcoming opponents we're going to do? So I'm not going to look at the last names of a bunch of cornerbacks on the schedule to see which ones could be coded as like fun slang. That's not happening. I'm sorry.
Well, you're just no fun.
No.
Raul asks, do you hate or love this take?
Already love it. What is it?
The winner of this game, Vikings and Lions, makes the playoffs and the loser does not. For reference, the Lions last made the playoffs in 2016 and last won a playoff game in 91.
Last won a playoff game? Goodness. Oh my God. Oh, Jesus Christ, that's even worse than the Vikings. All right. I mean, the Vikings have won playoff games fairly recently, but still. Good Lord. Geez. Well, I hope the take is true, and I hope the Lions win then, right? Like, feels like they deserve it more than Vikings fans do. No, I think the take is actually a pretty good one, not because, being 2-1 in the division with apparently the division lead, right? Like, that's what it would do for you. Dumb scenario already. But apparently being, 2-1 would be good. But the real key is that both of these teams, we kind of just don't know who they are. And whoever wins this game is likely to be, we don't know. It could be like an accident, right? It could be a bunch of punt blocks that are not likely to repeat themselves or something. But
or whatever the hell ended the Browns Steelers game tonight.
Yeah, a lot of those, a lot of laterals that just go wrong. Which I mean, that sounds like a very Vikings way to end a game, honestly, especially against the Lions. But yeah, it would likely be the case that team is probably actually just good. And has the ability to string some wins together and make the playoffs in an NFC where things are still not, clear for the wildcard race. So I do like the take, actually, but not because like the game itself is important for the divisional race, but rather what it signifies.
Yeah, it's not quite a loser leaves town match yet.
Yeah.
Resigned Sigh asks, we have heard or seen evidence of Kirk's Terminator-like determination to follow progressions and rules. How does Coach O'Connell adapt to this? Would calling the first down marker John Connor help? paying Brett Favre to come in and show Kirk how to maverick and have fun out there.
I feel like paying Brett Favre is like a poor history at this point.
Well, he clearly is into the money situation. It's just whether or not the press will find out.
Right. Well, I mean, he certainly has creative ways of deploying that money. The question is, if you pay Brett Favre for some specific thing, how likely is he to do that thing? And recent history suggests not very likely at all.
I mean, we could have told you that from all the times that he was kind of wishy-washy about playing, and they literally had to send people to Mississippi to get him off the couch.
Yeah, and maybe Brett Favre should not be in Mississippi anymore. Well, I'm not suggesting he flee the state to avoid crimes, but
maybe
it would be in his best interest.
He could find a nice place that has no extradition.
Yeah, which I believe all the states have extradition. So, and Mexico actually has extradition. So, well, good luck, Brett Favre. I hope you speak whatever language is where you end up. Anyway,
he can just do it through text. You know what? I'm going to shut up.
Nope, I don't know about that.
Nope. Nope.
It's 2 strikes. The third one would hit pretty hard. Okay, so I want to point out that Kirk Cousins has been playing with more, moxie and improvisation than we're used to him playing with, and or risk tolerance. This is something we've wanted. We just want him to also be good at it. He did that both in the Packers game, which worked out really well, and in the Eagles game. Because if he had followed the rules of his progressions in that game, there's no way O'Connell designed the offense to just chuck it up to Jefferson, as funny as that would be. There were progressions and rules, and Jefferson was not open. So just take all these other receivers. The point of having a good receiving core is that, when one of them gets taken away, you can use the other one, right? Historically, we're very familiar with that concept. Right? After Randy Moss scored his 3rd touchdown against the Cowboys, they put 3 players on him, and they were like, all right, well, I guess we'll have to throw it to Chris Carter. Oh no. Right? That the idea is that you kind of pepper the ball around. So I don't really mind this somewhat newfound improvisational streak, right? I'm just concerned that this hard loss against Philadelphia will change him back actually into, kind of the robot progression rules kind of guy. Hopefully he continues, this experiment with freeform football. We'll see what happens.
Next question is from Delta BC Dad, who asks, question for our Reeves quarterback corner. Is it possible that Kirk is not capable of taking more chances? Maybe it is the case, Cookus, that he can play within the structure of normal QB professions, but his risk assessment is poor. His response to this has never been to take risks because functionally he can't resolve between a medium risk, high reward opportunity and a high risk, medium opportunity. Maybe he just can't process that information fast enough to do it. Is that plausible?
Hey, within the context of the thing I just said, yeah, it seems plausible, right? First of all, human brains themselves are just not necessarily very good at this. So it's not a weakness of Kirk specifically more than it is a weakness of the human condition. I mean, it comes up a lot on this podcast, I think. We tend to think of process and outcome instantly in sort of a binary modality, right? It will or it won't happen, right? And when our brains are tired or we're rushed or whatever, we tend to default to that before we begin making, escalating judgments about, the nature of risk and stuff like that and what a mediated or graduated risk looks like. And so maybe, in the way that Cousins plays, he can very quickly go through a procedure, but he cannot quickly evaluate some sort of fuzzy logic scenario like this medium risk, high reward and high risk, medium reward distinction. So that could be the case, right? In which case, we would not want him, we would not want him to be as improvisational as we're demanding of him. But I think, the other moments in his career, there are other elements in his career which tell me that, maybe that's not, quite true. I think that, he is somebody who's craved structure his whole life. And the way that he's kind of approached things is to make sure that he can establish a floor for himself, because security has always been very important to him. So I don't think that that's the case, but I think that this is definitely plausible.
So, as a side note, my favorite conspiracy theory of the week is that Kirk Cousins has a really bad astigmatism, and as a result, can't play night games.
Yeah, because of the bright lights and night city. Who tweeted that out? That was really good.
I can't remember at the moment, but it was I enjoyed that thoroughly.
It was brilliant. Yeah,
it was like, well, of course it would be because of the bright lights and everything, but it was something else. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that tweet thoroughly. Also, as a side note, Case Cookus is getting looked at by teams again.
Yeah, so that knee must be... Oh, that's a Brett Coleman take, by the way, the Kirk Cousins astigmatism one.
That's the one. Okay, yep.
Yeah.
Yep, Case Cookus was looked at as a potential quarterback backup for the Cowboys this week.
Yeah, so the knee must be fine, which it happened in, like, April? So...
July.
What?
That's why I thought it was weird that he was, because I thought he broke his leg.
Okay, so suffers leg injury, initially reported as a knee injury. So we have new information that it is suffered a broken bone in his leg, which took place 11 days before his wedding. Oh my God.
The Norse Code podcast, where people laugh maniacally at a bone break.
No, I'm laughing at his grit and determination.
To get married or to get... Okay.
What, the football part?
Okay.
The married thing, that's just...
That's what I'm laughing... Okay, yeah.
I am laughing a little bit at the married thing. That's awful luck, man. But, it's kind of cool to walk down the aisle in a cast and a crotch, right? That's dedication.
Yeah, that...
But rewrite your vows a little bit to reference it, I think.
Otherwise, it's totally the elephant in the room.
Yeah, right. You got to bring it up.
In sickness, look down.
Yeah.
In health.
All right, we nailed that. Perfect. Okay. I don't know what he's doing working out. That's incredible. Broke his leg in July?
Yeah, because that game was over the 4th of July weekend.
Yeah. The reporting I see was from 4th of July.
I still think the Athletic should have gotten us press passes to the actual championship.
Okay, so no joke, I asked this to Pro Football Network. I was like, hey, if for example I wanted to cover the USFL finals, given kind of the limitations with travel and everybody's got a limited travel budget, would you have been able to send me? And they're like, oh, absolutely. So
if you worked there, we could have potentially gotten an interview with Mr. Cookus.
Yeah, it would have been on the table, and maybe it's on the table still. So we've got all kinds of opportunities ahead of us. New Norse Code frontiers. I don't know what's going on with Case Cookus' leg, man. Maybe it was a very clean break or something, but So he had a workout with the Cowboys. So from the stars to the star on the helmet. Good luck, man.
No kidding.
Take care of that leg.
I just like the idea that it's possible that Cookus replaces
Do you think he worked out with the broken leg? Oh my God, no! Oh my God, it's possible. No, I didn't even think about that. Ah!
Danucci steps down.
What are all the footprints?
Well, they're probably not from Cookus, but
one of them definitely isn't, right?
We're gonna move on now that Arif's brain is broken to a question from Roro, who asks, will Kevin O'Connell cry if we lose to the Lions? If not, does that mean he doesn't care as much as Dan Campbell?
That one's a good one, but I am laughing at both things now. Yeah, obviously, he's not going to cry, and that means he doesn't care as much. But also, that's a pretty high bar. I don't think anybody cares as much as Dan Campbell. That's why we're all cheering for him.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Surly Cooper asks, my question is for a Reef's Nerd Fanboys Corner. How do you decide which low follower Twitter users to cyberbully? And how is it we all know to gang up on them without you explicitly giving us orders?
Okay, so like I do have more nuanced thoughts on this than I kind of demonstrated in my Twitter feed today. So for people who are unfamiliar, this guy quote tweeted my first article at Pro Football Network, which is just like putting the quarterbacks in tiers and stuff, and they were like, it was like, hey, here's kind of the tiers of quarterbacks. Okay, you're all familiar with the concept of quarterback tiers. I didn't need to explain it, but one of the organizing schemas for it was that there's a giant category for quarterbacks that you can win with, right? And not quarterbacks that are, good or bad or anything like that. It's just quarterbacks that, if you've got a good enough team, they won't drag you down, right? And that's a broad range of quarterbacks from good to bad. And so Kirk Cousins is in the same tier as Joe Flacco. And I think Kirk Cousins is a much better quarterback than Joe Flacco. But primarily, they're both going to kind of ride or die with whatever team they're on. And so that was kind of the idea behind it. And so the guy apparently took issue with that, although it took him like 20 tweets before he actually said what his issue was. And so I was just like, yeah, I agree. I'm just a dude on Twitter. This is like, who cares, right? You'll read it. I'll have fun. It's fine. And then he was like, oh my God, you quote tweeted me and now all your followers are bullying me. And it's like, well, look, man, you take a shot at somebody and now what, like, I'm just supposed to take all the shots I get just because I'm a big account? Like, no, man, I'm going to respond. Right. And like, when you quote tweet me, that's fine. But when I quote tweet you, it's because I'm thin skinned and bullying you at the same time. I think that's kind of ridiculous, right? Obviously, like when you have an account with 100,000 or 1 million, or in my case, 40,000 followers, and you're interacting with an account with like 200 followers, there's like a different dynamic at play than like a bunch of 200 follower accounts tweeting at each other. But like, it's different when it's just like you're dunking on someone for like a bad take and they were just kind of in their own little quarter of Twitter. Like they'll just say some stuff to their friends and they all follow each other, and you find it because you use the search function, like you're searching your own name or something, and you just kind of like a tungsten rod from space, right? Like, and now they've got a bunch of unsolicited, people in their mentions, right? But it's another thing. It's like when you step into the arena, right? Like when you're like, you suck, man, and your takes suck, and I hate you, and it's like, well, okay, let's go. I think that's different, right? I think that there's a bunch of instances where like big accounts will bully on small accounts, but also the nature of how those interactions play out matters too, right? Because if I did that and consistently people got like death threats about it, like, yeah, I should be a lot more careful. And also I should like take a hard look at the way I've generated my own following versus like a bunch of people are like, lol, you're kind of dumb. Like that, who cares, man? Like, close your eyes. I don't care. Like it all, there's a bunch of different like elements at play. But the way I choose them is I put all of the small Twitter accounts in the world on a giant dartboard and I sling a dart at it. And that's my victim for the day. That's what I do. Now I need to maintain being on the right side of Twitter terms of service. And so I can't tell people to go pile on an account. And so I've developed a complex series of subliminal messages that I have now activated in all of my Twitter followers through a series of inscrutable, it's kind of like cryptographic messaging will signal that this is a person that you should bully. And like lemmings to the cliff, that's not fair. You're the ones that survive. They're the ones that die. Like robots, I guess. I don't know. Do I care about my fans as humans? Apparently not. You all follow suit and
as
bully
your
the
business
person.
Manager, I cannot tell you how badly this is going to go.
Please donate to our Patreon.
This is...
And join the Discord, where I don't bully any of you at all.
God damn it, Arif.
What? I said I don't.
Let me just scroll past that question. Mayo Coffee asks, now that Arif has been crowned the Nerd King, what steps will he take to maintain peace with rival nations? Will James begin taste testing his food? What other steps, if any, will you take to prevent the overthrow of your benevolent monarchy?
All right, 2 reasons James will not begin taste testing my food. 1, James is a dad. He is immune to more things than I am. 2,
Accurate.
yeah, it would not be helpful. 2, that would mean I have less of the food. And so I would not appreciate that. Instead, I will recruit an unnamed Twitter account with less than 200 followers.
That'll be their penance.
Yeah. To taste test my food. What steps will I take to maintain peace with? Yeah, he did call me a nerd king. Like, that's what this guy did. So what's to maintain peace with rival nations? I refuse to maintain peace with rival nations. If they're a rival nation with me, it's on. Why are you rivals with me? You should be an ally. It's time no longer to maintain peace. We declare war.
Peace was never an option, I suppose.
Right. It's like Gandhi and Civ.
Yes, exactly. No one more angry than Gandhi in the Civ games. Jake Tesmer asks, my girlfriend has expressed interest in watching Vikings games with me. How do I explain to her the pain she is about to experience?
Well, okay, so if she is expressed interest in it, it's because she wants to, like, share, like, something important to you with you. It's not because, like, she suddenly started caring about the Vikings. That might be, like, a long time down the road. So any pain she's experiencing will be kind of secondhand, and she already knows it because she knows you, pal. So unless she has already committed to being emotionally invested in the Vikings, at which point it's too late, right? I don't know that there is a way to describe it, but if none of this worked and you think that there is a serious possibility she becomes engaged with Vikings fandom, I probably shouldn't use the word engage when we're talking about girlfriends, but we're here. Then I recommend listening to the 2009 NFC Championship game episode of Norse Code. We're talking about, like, our greatest hits on this podcast, right? So I might as well throw that one in there.
Might as well. Yeah, just remind them gently but firmly that no good will come from this. It's a bit like when you sit down with somebody to watch Game of Thrones the first season, maybe the second season, and they haven't seen it before. And a wedding begins on the TV, and they're like enthralled by how everything is like, like, honey, everything is going to end horribly here, okay? I just want you to know that.
Look, you've experienced a lot of rug pulls on this show, starting with episode 1. But man, this is all okay. So the show has trained you to expect the worst, and I'm very scared that you're not doing that right now.
Yeah. And maybe that's it. Maybe you just need to watch the greatest hits of Game of Thrones for an afternoon and be like, all right, so you ready to watch the Vikings play?
There you go.
It's a Monday night game against the Eagles.
You like the Stark family, right? Exactly. Anyway, here's the Vikings.
Don from Ohio asks, I had my blood work done and my cholesterol came back very high and pre-diabetic. It's clear that listening to this podcast has caused these health issues. What will you guys do to make it safer and healthier for your listeners to keep listening? In this case, absolutely nothing. In fact, Don, you should probably listen more.
Yeah, I was actually, okay, we were on the same track. This is one of those episodes where neither of us paid attention to any of the questions coming in, so we didn't do any of the pre-show prep that we sometimes do. So I'm surprised we're on the same page here. Don, 2 reasons you should listen to the show more. 1 is morbid. I'll let you figure that one out. 2, the reason that your health is getting worse is because when you listen to the show, you do the opposite thing, right? And that is not typically the case for a Norse Code listener. We get a bunch of feedback on, the food advice we give, and people are like, wow, that's really great. Bring Dusty on the show again. And, stuff like that. And we tell people not to cook in electric wood ovens. And we tell people to make sure that, that their diet has a variety of foods in it. And you take all of the food advice and you do just like the opposite thing. And so I think that is really the problem here. Also, listening to the show is highly correlated with being a Vikings fan. And I feel like that has something to do with listener health as well. So that's not the fault of the show. That's just an associated outcome, right? Like ice cream is not responsible for heat strokes, right? They just both happen to occur in summer.
Yeah. I had a funny interaction with a fan a couple of years ago when they had asked if Don from Ohio was real or if he was just somebody that we had made up for like ridiculous questions at the end of shows.
That's amazing. That's the legacy Don from Ohio is leaving behind. No, we've been on Zoom calls with him. He's definitely real.
Yeah, I wouldn't send myself bingo crap.
Yeah, that would be quite a bit. Also, like Don was originally a harassed someone else, I think is the best way to put it, right? He originally was Judd Zulgad's hoodie on Twitter.
Yep, he was hoodie.
Yeah, so no, he's had a history of finding a Vikings personality and making their life a living hell.
That's fair. Also from Don, if Norse Code scammed money from the state, of which the money was supposed to go to poor families, what would you buy to justify the skimming of the money?
I doubled down and start a video game company.
I was going to say, I'd really think about a volleyball facility somewhere.
It speaks to me for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know if it's my new profession as a PA announcer for games or what, but I really feel like I need a new volleyball performance center somewhere. Also, finally from Don, it's our 1-year anniversary today. The present you are supposed to buy for the first anniversary has to do with paper. What would you recommend as an anniversary gift made of paper besides money?
Divorce documents. No. Okay, that was harsh.
Boy,
that was bad. No, there was a listener, or not a listener, a respondent who saw that question and said, buy a book full of love poems, which is so wholesome and nice and outside of the ethos of the show that I had to check to see if she was following me, and lo, she was not. So I was like, okay, that makes a bit more sense. That maybe they just followed like Don or followed some Vikings.
Someone overly positive was not following you.
Yeah, I was like, there's no way, and then they weren't. So yeah, that resolved that concern, right? Yeah. That one's really good. I feel like some sort of recursive, like, not even recursive, just like an anniversary dinner with like a bunch of like paper lanterns with paper cranes and stuff like that you made. That sounds fun.
I was going to go the origami route as well, just because it seemed like you were asking for what you should do the day of your anniversary. Like, you know, your time is not on your side here. So on the off chance you manage to listen to this on your anniversary still, or if she forgets and you guys decide to, you know, do something tomorrow, I was going to suggest writing something on Post-it notes that you turn into origami and have her read those, because that's probably the best you're going to get. Or if you go with the paper, when I am starting my charcoal grill, when I start the little like fire starter thing, I usually take off the white paper from the outside of the charcoal bag as a fire starter, because it's very thin and it's made to start fires, right? So you can use that. You can buy her a bag of charcoal.
Oh my God. That's beautiful. Also,
and it's something she wants.
Of note, because charcoal is made from trees, like it's just deoxygenated burned wood, right? So it's pure carbon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's right there, man. It's paper.
Yeah, it's one step away.
Yeah.
So there, that's what you can get your wife. That's terrible. Brown's Massage Therapist Union finishes up today. For a Reef's Beekeeping Corner, do you recommend informing your hives that the queen is dead, or does a reef raise bees that don't believe in the monarchy? Now, for those who missed this, apparently it is tradition to inform the bees that
the royal bees.
The royal bees, the Queen of England has passed. Something Arif had opinions on last episode, but
what? No, you're talking about a historical event from the 1940s. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, that. So, do you recommend informing your hives that the queen is dead, or do you raise bees that don't believe in the monarchy?
Okay, so first of all, I'm going to say that I raise bees that don't believe in the monarchy, but that does not mean that they don't have a queen. And the distinction here is that a queen is just the name that we give to the bee that lays all the eggs, right? Like the bees did not produce a royalty, right? That's not how that works. All the bees are in that royal lineage if we were to use that logic. So our assignation of royalty to one role within a beehive of a eusocial insect, by the way, does not mean that they believe in monarchy. I just want that to be clear. No bees believe in monarchy because bees don't have a concept of like governance. That's really important. I need to get that across to all of you who ask weird questions about bees.
Wait, so what about this instinctual understanding of their hierarchy?
No, okay. Those are just social roles. That's not like a hierarchy in the same sense. Right? I thought you were going to say the instinctual understanding of like racism, and I was like, no, that's not true either. I thought we were going back.
You're the one who brought race into this. I brought nothing.
Racism, and but I'm not the one who brought it in. All of the listeners who ask about bee racism did it, and now they're taunting me and haunting me. And so now, whenever we talk about bees, this non-issue is now an issue.
You're the wide receiver here in footsteps out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Just you're trying.
Smith is coming over the middle, man. What am I supposed to do?
That's exactly what this is. That's exactly what you've painted yourself in. I didn't bring up racism at all. I didn't bring up races at all. I was just asking about why bees have an innate understanding of their role when they are born. That's all I was trying. I was trying to bring class into it. I wasn't trying to bring race.
Okay, that's better. I don't know, man. The class is also a weird word. Okay, we're not going to go into this.
I thought we were beginning to wander into the bee corner. I'm sorry. I thought this was America. I thought that's where we were going.
You thought a discussion about class was American?
But when it involves American bees, yeah. Why would that be weird?
I'm gonna bring you up with the House Un-American Activities Committee.
Let's go to the final question. For James's North Dakota corner, which is always a fun place to go. We elect dead people. What's the weirdest thing you've done to get attention in a bar? There was a news report.
Nice distraction from the fact that you voted for a dead person.
It's not my district. I didn't vote for the dead guy.
Then why did you vote out of your district for the dead guy?
I didn't vote for the dead guy. I believe I voted in that election, but I didn't vote in that particular race because it wasn't offered to me. I would not have voted for the dead guy.
I can't believe you committed election fraud to vote for a dead guy of all things.
Yeah.
At least make your election fraud worth it.
Okay, so anyway, the question is, what's the weirdest thing I've done to get attention in a bar? And there's a link to a news report that happened when a woman brought a raccoon to a bar in North Dakota. There was concern that it gave rabies to a number of people in the bar. It has since turned out that the raccoon
immediately. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it turned out the raccoon was not, in fact, rabid. To the delight of a dozen people who happened to be at that bar that evening.
So okay, hold on. So she brings a raccoon into the bar. I've not read the story, and okay, I was just trying to make sure it wasn't Duffy's. So of Maddock. Okay. And they didn't immediately kick her and the raccoon out?
No, they did not.
It bit a bunch of people? Or is it just like normal? A bitten or had contact with the raccoon saliva? That's bad too. There's no reason that should have happened. The second thing is bad as well.
Yeah. So no, it's not. No one was bit. No one was hurt. Apparently, I don't know if it was.
She named Rocky?
I'm sorry, what?
Christensen said her family found the raccoon on the side of the road about 3 months ago and named it Rocky.
Yes.
And I wasn't reading that paragraph. I was reading a couple of paragraphs below. It was unfair and too much was done to detain an innocent raccoon, which again sounds like it bit some people. Christensen said Wednesday in a statement to the Bismarck Tribune, they were not worried about the health of us if we had rabies or not. They were worried about finding and killing Rocky. And I was like, oh, Rocky must be the raccoon. Oh my God. And I had to scroll back up.
Yeah. So as it turns out, in the state of North Dakota, it is illegal to bring a raccoon into a bar, as it probably should be.
I assume that there's like a larger law that fits under and not a specific law about raccoons in bars.
Oh, it's there's a How I Met Your Mother thing.
Lawful possession of fur bearers?
Yeah. Which, I mean, it could be twisted to imply other things too, but it it stops at the raccoon here. So
right.
But
you know how like a lot of like this state has a weird law, like you're not allowed to have a chicken on your head and you cross the border or something.
Sleeping
and it's
with
like,
your shoes on, yeah.
Right, and it's like, well, actually there's like a much broader law that actually does kind of make sense. It just, there's these weird edge cases that you can fit into the law, and now you say that that's illegal. But there's not a law specifically about that thing. And so that's what I was concerned about.
It's one of your grandma's email forwards from the early 2000s.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
That's sort of thing. Yeah. So, no, I've never brought a raccoon into a bar. Oddest thing I've done to get attention in a bar. Well, you have to understand, I was a wedding DJ for 17 years. So I've played a number of bars and have played a number of really weird things, but it was never about getting attention for me necessarily. It was about getting attention for the music or like the event. That said, I mean, I've DJ'd events where people broke, like where, you know, I was DJing a wedding out in north central. No, I think it was in Botno. Yeah, this is a Botno wedding, and a guy broke his leg. Just slipped, fell, broke his leg. And it's the middle of the wedding reception, so you have to kind of kill time. Because the ambulance is here, and they're strapping him to a gurney and bringing him out, so...
Oh my God. A lot of broken legs at these weddings that we're talking about today, huh?
Yeah, well, apparently, yes. I mean, I've in my years, there were only, I want to say 3 broken bones in 17 years, which isn't a lot, but it's more than you'd expect. So, I don't know. Weirdest thing I've done to get attention at a bar. I sang Kiss by Prince in the falsetto the entire time in order to get somebody's number.
Was it karaoke or were you just doing it?
No, it was karaoke.
Okay. That's not that strange.
See, that's slightly more socially acceptable. It's just someone of my height and size singing a Prince number is a sight to behold.
That is quite amusing. I'm just saying, like, within the context of karaoke, it's not that like if you just did it, that would be, first of all, that'd be wild. If it was just a bar that didn't even have a karaoke machine.
No,
but if it worked, that'd be even wilder.
That's basically like the Top Gun scene where they're singing "You've Lost That Love and Feelin'." Like I'm just not that.
At least
cool.
You got the backing of like someone else at the bar.
I don't know. I was late one night. Guy was cleaning up the bar. I was the only other person in it, and he was cleaning up a absolute mess by the door. And it was bar closed, and I was just finishing up my drink before I left. And I went on the jukebox and I played "All by Myself" by Eric Carmen as he was mopping up something truly awful in the front of the bar. And he was just like, good. "Really, James?
That's good.
Really?" So, I remember my 21st birthday. All right, well, that's going to be it for this episode of Norse Code. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Arif, what do you have to plug?
You can find me at profootballnetwork.com. And I've got 2 pieces up there. One is the quarterback tiers. I think there's 2 quarterbacks I just didn't rank. One of them is the Falcons quarterback, and I'm saying that because I did it under protest, which I think I explained in the interview with Jeremy. But yeah, I've got another piece up on Christian Kirk and how like he's making good in that contract that everyone made fun of. And then, come Sunday, I'll have a game takeaway for primarily the Lions to see if they're a real team, but Lions Vikings, as well as takeaways from the rest of Sunday's game. And then I'll have a Monday column that's going to be a long one. It's going to be just like some thoughts I had. So we'll see.
Are you tired of people saying that you're a national writer so that you can just be paid to cover the Seahawks now?
Yeah. How did you know that I was tired of that one?
Just a lucky guess, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because they're like, hey, well, if you have access to games, it'd be kind of cool if you went to them, and you've got access to Vikings games. And then Vikings PR was like, well, okay, but if you're a national writer now, why do you need to cover Vikings games? It was like, because it's football. I don't know what to tell you, man.
Listen, I'm on this beekeeping podcast, and occasionally we talk about football, so it'd be nice if I can still get press passes. Just sometimes it devolves into race, but mostly it's about kicking. So
yeah, see, I have a beat here.
Yes, exactly. All right, well, that's gonna be it for this episode of Norse Code. Again, we'll be back on Sunday to discuss the Lions game. So for Reef, my name is James. Thank you guys so much for listening, and please remember that the Vikings are not to be trusted. And we'll be back this weekend. Norse Code is the largest and only division of Norse Code LLC. You can find Norse Code on the Daily Norseman, SB Nation's Vikings blog, at dailynorseman.com. You can also find it on iTunes, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, and wherever fine podcasts are aggregated. Our Vikings blogger extraordinaire and generally useful human is Arif Hassan of The Athletic, and he can be found at Arif Hassan NFL. I am your producer and host, and my name is James Pagashnik. You can find me at the show's official Twitter feed at NorseCodeDN or my personal account at Big Mono. If you'd like to donate a few bucks to the show, you can do so in a few different ways. You can go to patreon.com/NorseCode and donate there. For $3.50 a month, you get bonus material and more. You can also go to paypal.me/NorseCode for a one-time donation, or you can go to norsecode.threadless.com and pick up some Norse Code merchandise. Any questions or comments that cannot fit in a tweet can be sent to norsecodepodcast@gmail.com. On behalf of the Norse Code staff, thank you so much for listening.
Our formula is this.
Hey, all things are possible through the power of Ben DiNucci.